After 4,500 years, the Great Sphinx finally gave up its biggest secret. In 2025, advanced muon scanners completed the most detailed scan ever done. What they found beneath those ancient paws shocked every expert in Egypt. The government immediately sealed off the area. 3 chambers appeared on the scans, but one chamber showed something that shouldn't exist. The discovery is so massive that officials are scared to announce it. What could make modern Egypt tremble at an ancient secret that's been waiting underground? Let's get into the background first. About 4,500 years ago, when Pharaoh Khafre ruled Egypt, something massive and mysterious was carved out of solid limestone. It became the Great Sphinx of Giza. It stretches 73 m long and stands 20 m high. But back then, it didn't look the way it does now. It wasn't pale or sun-bleached. Its face had bright red paint, and its headdress shimmered with blue and yellow colors. It must have looked incredible in the desert light, like a god watching over the rising sun. The Sphinx faces directly east, which wasn't a coincidence. The ancient Egyptians worshipped the sun and believed the pharaoh had divine power. So placing a creature with a lion's body and a human head to stare at the sunrise symbolized power, protection, and royalty. Most scholars agree the face resembles Khafre himself, so it may have been his image carved onto the statue to guard his pyramid. The lion's body stood for strength. The human face showed wisdom. Together, it was the ultimate symbol of a king. But over time, things changed. The Sphinx was damaged again and again. Its most famous injury is the missing nose. Many people think Napoleon's soldiers blew it off in the 1700s, but that's not true. Sketches from before Napoleon's time already show the Sphinx without a nose. The real story is even more surprising. In 1378, a man named Muhammad Sarim Aldous saw peasants making offerings to the Sphinx as if it were a god. In outrage, he chiseled off the nose himself to stop what he thought was idol worship. That act of destruction was recorded by the historian Olmark, and it still shocks people to this day. Other parts were also lost. The ceremonial bead fell off long ago, and the cobra on the forehead disappeared, too. But the Sphinx didn't just face damage. It was also forgotten. The desert slowly buried it in sand. By 400 BC, during the time of Thutmose, only its head was visible. One day, while still a Prince, Thutmose fell asleep near it and had a strange dream. In it, the Sphinx spoke to him. It promised that if he cleared the sand from its body, he would become king. When he woke up, Thutmose began digging. After he became pharaoh, he placed a stone tablet between the Sphinx's paws. That tablet still stands today. It's called the Dream Stele, and it proves that even 3,400 years ago, the Sphinx was already ancient and mysterious. But the sand didn't stay away for long. Over and over, they swallowed the statue again. One detail from Thutmose's tablet sparked even more questions. It shows the Sphinx sitting on what looks like a pedestal or small temple, maybe with a door. Some believe this was just artistic imagination, but others think it hints at something buried underneath. That image would go on to inspire centuries of treasure hunters and conspiracy theorists. One of the strangest things about the Sphinx is its shape. Its head looks too small for its giant body. Some people like John Anthony West and Robert Scholl believe this means the Sphinx was even older than Khafre's time. They think it once had a lion's head and was later reshaped into a pharaoh's face. Others, like Egyptologist Mark Leonard, say the body was simply extended to cover a flaw in the stone. Still, the odd proportions continue to puzzle experts. It's one of the reasons why some people think the Sphinx was built thousands of years before the pyramids by a lost civilization. We no longer know. In 1817, a man named Giovanni Battista Caviglia led the first modern excavation of the Sphinx. With the help of 160 workers, he began digging out the statue from the sand. Until then, only the head and a bit of the neck were showing. Over time, he revealed the chest and front paws. That's when he made an amazing discovery. Between the paws, he found a small altar and the Dream Stele of Thutmose IV. There were also 2 granite tablets from the reign of Ramses II. One of them now sits in the Louvre Museum. Even stranger was a horned altar that had black scorch marks on it like something had been burned there. This altar looked similar to ones described in the Bible with 4 small horns at the corners. Scholars later said it came from the early first millennium BCE. That means people were still worshipping the Sphinx long after the time of Khafra, maybe even treating it as a local god. But Caviglia didn't find any tunnels or chambers. He looked hard, even clearing shafts in the body, but only natural cracks were uncovered. Sand kept pouring back into the pit, making work almost impossible. Rumors spread that the dig had brought a curse. Locals whispered that disturbing the Sphinx had angered ancient spirits. Caviglia gave up. In the 1850s, a man named Auguste Merritt, who founded the Cairo Museum, returned to the site. He cleared more sand and found an old Roman staircase leading down to the Sphinx. It had been built in the 1st century AD and was completely buried. Beneath it, he discovered the ruins of a temple from the Old Kingdom. This temple was believed to be part of Khafra's complex. Merritt also examined a shaft in the Sphinx's back. It was just a crack, but inside it he found burned wood that smelled of resin. Some thought it was from a coffin. Maybe someone had used the shaft as a makeshift tomb, but it wasn't built by the Sphinx's original creators. Still, that small discovery sparked new hopes that a burial chamber was hidden inside. In 1887, Gaston Maspero, a French engineer, fully exposed the Sphinx's base for the first time in nearly 2,000 years. Its full body was finally free, but no doors or tunnels were found, just cracks and a hole on the top of the head, which was likely used to attach a crown. Then came Emile Berets in 1925. He worked on the Sphinx for over a decade. He cleared more sand and fixed weak parts of the statue. In 1926, he explored the crack in the Sphinx's back and sealed it with concrete to keep it from eroding further. He also sealed the hole in the head with a trapdoor. This made sense for protection, but he didn't talk much about what he saw inside. That silence gave rise to conspiracy theories. Some believed he found something secret and covered it up. Even workers on his team said they remembered seeing a tunnel near the Sphinx's hindquarters. When asked years later, they said it led downward and was later sealed. In 1980, archaeologists Zahi Hawass and Mark Lehner investigated that area and found only a dead end filled with water. By the late 1970s, the Sphinx had been studied top to bottom. No major secrets had been found, just the dream's stele, the chapel, and some cracks. But people still hoped. In 1978, a team from Stanford Research Institute used radar and seismic tests to scan the area. Their machines detected empty spots under the Sphinx's paws and along its sides. Some thought they had found hidden rooms, but when experts drilled and dug into those areas, all they found was soft patches in the stone and natural fissures. It was disappointing, but it proved something important. The bedrock beneath Giza is full of cracks that can confuse even the best machines. In the 1980s, Zahi Hawass began drilling around the Sphinx using modern radar. He found small voids, but nothing unusual. In one spot, red paint was found on the stone walls. Maybe marks from ancient workers. But again, no treasure, no tombs, just pigment and dust. Still, every time has said nothing was found. Skeptics accused him of hiding the truth. Some thought Egypt was keeping secrets about Atlantis or Hall of Records. In 1991, Hawass and Leonard published their findings. They described a tunnel under the northwest rump and said it was just an old shaft, not a secret chamber. They found modern trash inside, not ancient gold. As we moved into the 21st century, people stopped trying to drill into the Sphinx or dig under it. Instead, they turned to newer technology. They wanted to find out what might be hidden inside or underneath without touching or damaging anything. One idea came from something called the Scan Pyramids Project. It started in 2015 and used cosmic rays called muons to look inside Egypt's pyramids. These tiny particles come from space and pass through stone. Scientists discovered a hidden space in the Great Pyramid using this method. That success made many wonder, what if we use this same method on the Sphinx? By the mid-2020s, Egypt's Ministry of Antiquities began considering it. They wanted to know if there were any unknown hollow areas deep inside the Sphinx's body or underneath its paws. The plan, if approved, would let scanners look through the whole monument using muon radiography. This would work like an X-ray and show empty spaces with over 99% accuracy. Since the Sphinx is smaller than a pyramid, The scan would need fewer detectors and wouldn't take too long. Many scientists believe this test could finally prove once and for all whether there are chambers inside. If nothing shows up, then maybe there really is no Hall of Records. But if something does show up, a strange space inside the rock, a hollow spot under the paws, it could change everything. They might then use tiny cameras or drill carefully to explore further. As of now, everyone is waiting to see if the Egyptian government gives the final permission for this scan in 2025 or 2026. Other technologies have already been used on the Sphinx, and some results were strange. In 2016, a team used thermal infrared cameras to check the surface. They noticed something odd. Some blocks showed higher heat than others. One hot spot was found low on the Sphinx's body. This could mean there's an open space or air behind the surface, but officials said it might just be natural, different kinds of rock or dampness. Still, this test got people talking again about possible secrets hiding under the stone. Even before that, in the 1990s and early 2000s, scientists had used ground-penetrating radar. In 1991, a man named Thomas Dubicki worked with Robert Shaw. They ran radar scans and claimed to find a few cavities 5 to 9 m below the surface near the paws and the sides. Shaw even said one of the spaces seemed to be shaped like a rectangle. But when Egyptian archaeologists later went to those exact spots and drilled, they only found natural cracks or softer ground, not real chambers. It seems the radar picked up changes in the Earth's layers, not man-made rooms. But the media had already reported the original findings. So even today, people still say there's a rectangular room under the left paw, not knowing that later tests proved otherwise. By the 2020s, scanning technology had improved even more. New tools included drones with laser scanners called LiDAR, 3D modeling using photogrammetry, and even artificial intelligence. In 2018 and 2019, a team from Japan led by Yukinori Kawi worked with ancient Egypt research associates. They flew drones around the Sphinx and made the most accurate digital model ever, down to the tiniest crack. The goal was to help with preservation, but it also helped researchers look for anything unusual like secret doors or shapes hidden in the rock. So far, nothing major has shown up, but the data is saved and can be studied more in the future. Some tech fans even fed these 3D models into AI programs. These programs sometimes find patterns humans don't notice. Recently, viral videos online said that AI trained on pyramid data had predicted possible hidden rooms under the Sphinx. These videos had titles like "Quantum AI reveals hidden Sphinx tunnels," but experts don't take these claims seriously. The videos often just recycle old radar data or make weak guesses that happen to match conspiracy theories. Egyptologists say none of these AI results are peer-reviewed or confirmed by real science. Still, it shows how powerful the mystery is. People are now using the world's smartest computers to solve a riddle that began thousands of years ago. Maybe one day, real AI tests on actual muon data will find something. But for now, all of that remains just a possibility. Not all research has been legal. In 2023 and 2024, some hobbyists used drones and basic radar on their own. They flew over the Sphinx and made wild claims on social media about energy waves and secret rooms. Egyptian officials were angry. The Sphinx is part of a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Random people scanning it without permission could damage it. There's fear that someone obsessed with treasure might harm the stone. So now, even though technology is getting better and easier to use, there's a need to control who uses it. All serious research now has to be done carefully and with approval. The Sphinx has already been damaged in the past by people trying to help. Some drilled too much, others used the wrong materials to repair cracks, which made the stone weaker. Today's experts try to avoid touching anything. They want to keep the Sphinx safe for the future. If hidden spaces are ever found, they must be explored in a way that doesn't break even a single stone. But while people are trying to uncover secrets, nature is quietly creating a different kind of danger. One problem that began getting worse in the last 20 years is rising groundwater. As Cairo grew bigger, its plumbing and farming changed how water flows. By 2008, that water started seeping into the Sphinx's lower stones. Groundwater carries salt. When the salty water rises and then dries on the surface, the salt becomes crystals. These crystals break the rock apart. Slowly, the Sphinx could begin to crumble. In 2009, Dr. Zahi Hawass oversaw emergency drilling. The team found that the water level was only 15 feet or about 4.5 m below the Sphinx. That was dangerously close. So, they installed pumps and redirected a nearby canal. This helped for a while. But there's another problem. If there are any natural hollows under the Sphinx, cracks, or caves, they could collect water. Some of the secret chambers that people talk about might actually be pools of rainwater or groundwater. In 2025, after a heavy rain, a known natural cave under the Sphinx's back filled with water. It wasn't a huge flood, but it proved how fragile everything is. The real threat to the Sphinx might not be some hidden trapdoor or ancient curse. It could be water slowly eating away at the base. Conservation experts are now working faster than ever to protect the monument. They are building better drainage, watching the water table, and doing everything they can to stop erosion. For years, one strange idea has refused to dissipate. It comes from a man named Edgar Cayce who made thousands of strange predictions in the early 1900s. He spoke of something buried beneath the Sphinx in Egypt, something he called the Hall of Records. According to him, it wasn't just any chamber or tomb. It was a lost library from an ancient world that had been wiped away over 12,000 years ago. That world, he claimed, was Atlantis. If what he said was true, the implications would be enormous. It would mean the story of human history as we know. It is completely wrong. It would mean that a civilization more advanced than Egypt existed before the pyramids, one that understood astronomy, mathematics, engineering, and even technology far beyond what textbooks teach. Some believers imagine that under the Sphinx are scrolls or crystal tablets left behind by these forgotten people. Some go even further and say there might be crystalline devices or digital maps of lands that disappeared beneath the sea, or even the truth about where humans really came from. They say this could destroy the theory of evolution. And that's the reason why so many people even now keep watching for any radar scan or drill near the Sphinx's paw. Because if archaeologists one day find something hidden down there, it could rewrite the story of the human race overnight. But that's not where the ideas stop. Others have looked at the stars and then at the pyramids and noticed something eerie. The three pyramids at Giza line up almost perfectly with Orion's belt, a group of stars ancient people often linked with the gods. The Sphinx itself looks directly east if it's waiting for something. So some say maybe it's not just an ancient statue. Maybe it's a marker. Maybe it's guarding something not of this earth. In these theories, the chamber under the Sphinx doesn't just hold scrolls or gold. It might hold a machine, maybe a power source, maybe even a spacecraft, something built not by humans, but by visitors from beyond. These ideas often show up in late-night documentaries or strange websites, but they keep coming back. One thermal scan once showed a mysterious hot spot near the Sphinx's left paw. Some said it proved something was humming down there. Something metal, something alive. Even if no one has ever found a single real piece of alien technology at Giza, the mystery refuses to die. And then come the darkest stories. These ones aren't just about history or visitors from the sky. These are about the end. In Cayce's prophesies, he spoke of coming disasters. He said the earth would shift, the poles would move, earthquakes would strike between 1958 and 1998, leading to great changes around the year 2000. That didn't happen the way he said, but some followers believe he was simply off by a little. They say the real shift is still coming, maybe around 2025. Cayce sometimes mentioned that year, too. And in some spiritual circles, there are whispers. They say when the hidden chamber under the Sphinx is opened, it will not just reveal history. It will trigger something, a global awakening or maybe a global fall. They say inside that chamber is a kind of prophecy room left behind by the Atlanteans or by beings far older than us. And in it are messages, warnings, maps of what is to come. Some say it will tell us how to survive what's next. Others say opening it will release something we were never meant to touch. These stories don't come from Egyptian texts. They come from people who believe in New Age mysteries and science fiction, but they are told with such drama that they've captured millions of imaginations. The Sphinx becomes a key, a gate, solve the riddle, open the chamber, and either witness the truth or unleash the storm. Still, not every story is so grand. Some are more down to earth, even if still drenched in mystery. These ones say, maybe there's just treasure under the Sphinx. Not scrolls, not spaceships, just gold, statues, jewelry, things left behind by the ancient kings. We know that pharaohs buried steely near the Sphinx. We know that Thutmose once cleared sand from the statue and left behind a stone called the Dream Steely, which now sits between the Sphinx's paws. So, it's not impossible that something else was hidden nearby. One theory even claims the Ark of the Covenant, the biblical golden chest, was hidden there after a pharaoh named SHOCKS looted Jerusalem. That idea sounds like something from a movie because, in truth, it was made popular by books and films inspired by Indiana Jones. Still, it inspired real people. In the 1930s, an American named H. Campbell wandered the Giza Plateau with a dowsing rod. He was sure the Ark was buried near the Sphinx. He found nothing. Egyptian authorities quickly stopped him. In the 1970s, rumors spread that a secret team had paid God to drill near the Sphinx at night, chasing something called Thutmose's treasure. Again, no proof, but people kept believing. Some of the oldest legends from Cairo speak of treasure under the statue. One tale talks about Shah and Nessim's treasure, which could only be reached if someone found the hidden door beneath the Sphinx. In the 1800s, these tales drove adventurers to dig, drill, and bore into the limestone. Scholars had to beg them to stop, fearing the statue would be damaged forever. In the years after World War II, the Sphinx of Giza stopped being just an ancient statue and quietly became part of a modern global race. During the Cold War, when the world was split between East and West, even archaeology turned into a competition. In 1968, a Polish team came to Giza with electrical resistivity equipment, hoping to detect hidden chambers beneath the sand. They were the first to scan the Sphinx like this. A few years later, in the 1970s, an American group from the Stanford Research Institute arrived with ground-penetrating radar. By the 1980s, Japanese researchers had joined the hunt, too, using sonar to probe near the statue's paws. These weren't just scientists. They were representatives of nations trying to solve the riddle of Egypt's greatest mystery before anyone else did. Time softened the rivalry. Instead of competing, countries started working together. A new generation of experts emerged, and their approach was quieter, more respectful. For example, a recent project called the muon scan was led by Japanese scientists, but they worked side by side with Egyptian and French advisors from the Scan Pyramids group. They weren't just checking around the Sphinx with old tech. This time they used subatomic particles to look for empty spaces without digging a single hole. In 2022, Egypt's own National Research Institute announced another bold idea. They wanted to rescan the Sphinx using a high-resolution radar system developed with a German university. This wasn't like the scans of the 1990s that produced flat, unclear slices. This system would create 3D images showing what lies beneath the stone. Their plan was to launch this scan during the next official restoration of the Sphinx, allowing them to study deeper without disturbing anything above ground. But beneath the surface, something else was happening, too. Countries wanted credit. Egypt had to be careful. If the Japanese scan found a secret chamber, who would be allowed to tell the world who would get the glory? Egypt wanted to keep control of its heritage, but also knew that foreign help brought money and new tools. It was a delicate dance. Every nation involved, Japan, Germany, United States, France had their pride, their scientists, and their hopes. In 2025, Japan made another offer. This time, they proposed using an experimental gravity sensor. It didn't use radar or sonar. It measured tiny shifts in gravity to find voids underground. No drills, no contact, just gravity. They were willing to bring it to Egypt and scan around the Sphinx. It was a gesture of both goodwill and ambition. They wanted to help, yes, but they also wanted to be remembered as the ones who cracked the final code. Egypt knew what was at stake. These foreign projects brought high-tech gear and global attention, but Egypt set clear rules. All data would stay under Egyptian control. Foreign scientists could work on it, but the discoveries would belong to Egypt. This was not the early 1900s when outsiders took charge. Now, Egyptian archaeologists led the missions with international experts acting as partners, not owners.